Welcome to Going Deeper. We've been saying that disciples of Christ are becoming lovers of purity. Their natural choice is to move towards holiness. Why? Is that because they're masochists who like to deny themselves pleasure? No, it's because they have a vision for what God's good design is for our sexuality, and they're choosing to trust God that living in His design will lead to holiness. So why does our society view sexuality so differently from the Christian perspective? That is a massive question that could lead you to study the rise of the cult of individualism in our Western world, but maybe a simple story will help. I remember seeing a film called Pleasantville. It came out in 1998, and it's one of Tobey Maguire and Reese Witherspoon's early films. It's about two teenagers from the 90s who find themselves sucked into the TV into a 1950s sitcom where everyone is black and white. In the course of the story, these liberated 90s teenagers guide the poor, repressed kids and adults of the 50s into using their sexuality in a free way, unhindered by society's rules, and as they do, they turn from black and white to colour. The message was echoing our Western society, which was the repression of your sexuality is not only boring, but could be unhealthy. And in order to find your true self, you have to freely act on your sexual desires as long as it's between consenting partners. To not be a sexually active person was considered weird and unhealthy. And this is pretty much the view of our world now, and often we are not even aware how far our view of sexuality has drifted from God's original intention. Now, I want to just talk a little bit more about singleness, probably because I've been challenged a lot by some of the great singles in our church. Single people in our church community are often made to feel like they're in a side room waiting for their real life to start when they find a partner. This is not the way to honour our singles. We have to do a better job at embracing and supporting our single people. And we are so very thankful for many of the single people in our church who just serve tirelessly. Their contribution is great, but they also need places of intimate friendship. We can live without sex, but we can't live without intimacy. Can I just challenge all of us in the church who are married to consider embracing some of our wonderful single people? Now, I want to go back to our illustration of God's design for our sexuality and talk about some of the realities of life. We've looked at the beauty of this vision and how it can lead to human flourishing, but what about sin and the brokenness that we all know exists? Well, to start with, marriages are meant to last. No one goes into marriage expecting it to break up, but they do. What does God think about divorce? Well, the Bible says that God hates divorce. It doesn't say that He hates people who are divorced. He hates anything that gets in the way of our wholeness. Anyone who has been through it knows the pain and destruction that it can cause to a couple and their children. And some of our most difficult moments as leaders in this church have been finding ways to support Christian brothers and sisters as they go through this hell. But we must be there for each other. There is a need for safe places to work through pain, safe places for confession of sin, and the time to accept God's forgiveness as they also forgive themselves. There is a need for support for the kids as they see their parents go through this pain. God is close to the brokenhearted, so that is where the church is called to be. Maybe someone listening to this is in need of a loving friend to help them through. Well, I just want to say the church is there for you. Now I want to talk about pornography. I believe the Western world takes this far too lightly. It's seen as a private pursuit that's nobody's business, even in the church. A recent survey in the American Christian world found that porn use amongst Christians was about the same as non-Christians. This is a huge issue for our becoming, and we need to talk about it. In the book of 1 Peter, Peter says, "Dear brothers, you are only visitors here." He's talking to Christians. We are only visitors on this planet. "Since your real home is in heaven, I beg you to keep away from the evil pleasures of this world. They're not for you, for they fight against your very souls." I'm not talking about being naughty. I'm talking about something that destroys human wholeness and flourishing. And in what world could we ever think that supporting this industry is only a harmless recreational activity? Sociological studies show that watching porn on a regular basis will do two things. Firstly, it will wreck your sex life. A constant diet of fantasy can mean that normal sex is boring. Porn can rewire the brain to change the way that your mind works. You know, some guys are no longer even attracted to their own wives because online porn is so much more stimulating for them. We have watched marriages in this church fall apart because of the addictive nature of porn, and usually the woman is left feeling rejected and inadequate. Women can also be gripped by porn. There's a quote from a brilliant book I've read recently called Divine Sex by Jonathan Grant. And he says this: the pervasive power of pornography has made it the primary sexual educator of today's teens. Some researchers have called it the new tobacco. There is a stunning contradiction in an age where we expect our daughters to be treated with respect and dignity and equality, and have handed the sexual formation of our teens over to the sex industry. The most powerful deception of porn is its promise to fulfill desire while ultimately killing it. The most ironic fallout of the pursuit of sexual gratification online is that it can render the chronic user incapable of the very sexual satisfaction that he or she is seeking. Real life cannot match up to the fantasy. Porn is a cancer in the church and we don't talk about it. Well, we're talking about it today. Not only can watching porn kill your sex life, but it can wreck your spiritual life. There seems to be a huge cognitive dissonance that happens in your soul when you are trying to pray and connect with God and you are watching porn. It would be like trying to help a homeless man at the same time you're robbing him. That sort of mind-soul battle can kill your passion for God and your ability to change this world for the better. So what to do? There is always forgiveness, always, always. But for many, this porn watching has become an addiction and it needs help. You need to confess this to a trusted friend and get some help and accountability. I have known wonderful young people who have almost derailed their marriage through this, but they have made the choice to be honest and open with God and a mentor, and they got help and accountability and they turned the situation around. I have such admiration for them. They put the chisel in God's hand and said, "Do what you need to do to cut this out of me." There is hope. There's a wonderful course that's available online, Valiant Man, for men and Woman to Woman for girls. It's an online program run by Dr. Alan Meyer, who is a Melbourne pastor. You could put a comment in the prayer link. That is confidential. You can put a comment there that you want to talk to someone, that you need some help, and we promise that we will follow you up. Can we get a vision for the beautiful life that God is calling us to? We need to aim for that and let Him chisel the broken bits off you. Let Him transform you by the power of your Spirit. What Jesus wants to give you is so much better than anything this world can offer. Aim for purity. It's not about your past. It's about your future.